as Jae-won's hand gripped Zara's waist, pulling her closer until there was no space left between them. His dark eyes burned with an intensity that made her breath catch, his other hand already pushing aside the papers on his mahogany desk. "You can't keep running from this," he growled, his Korean accent thick with desire as his lips hovered dangerously close to hers. "From us." Zara's brown skin flushed warm despite herself, her hands pressed against his chest, feeling his heart thunder beneath the expensive fabric of his black suit. "Jae-won, this is wrong. Your father. I'll put you on that desk and make you forget all those who came before me," he interrupted, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper that sent shivers down her spine. "I'll make you forget everything except my name." "I can't," she breathed, but even as the words left her lips, her fingers were curling into his collar, pulling him closer. His mouth crashed onto hers with a hunger that had been building for months, and she surrendered, letting him lift her onto the desk as files scattered to the floor. The city lights of Seoul glittered behind them like fallen stars as he kissed her like she was air and he'd been drowning. Before we dive deeper into Zara and Jae-won's dangerous love story, I want to wish each and every one of you compliment of the season and happy holidays. May your season be filled with love, warmth, and all the drama you can handle, hopefully less dangerous than what our couple is about to face. If you're new here, welcome to our Afro Soul Diaries, where we bring you the most intense, passionate, and dramatic Korean romance stories. Do me a favor and click that subscribe button. Your support means the world to me. Now, let's get back to the fire between these two. 24 hours earlier, Zara had never imagined she'd be in Seoul, let alone in the arms of one of the most dangerous men in South Korea. She'd come to the city as a financial consultant, hired by Kim Enterprises to audit their books. What she discovered in those ledgers had turned her world upside down. She sat across from Jae-won in his office that first day, her portfolio open, her expression professional despite the way his gaze seemed to strip away every defense she'd carefully constructed. "Mr. Kim, there are some irregularities in these accounts that I need to discuss with you." Jae-won leaned back in his leather chair, his fingers steepled under his chin. At 32, he'd inherited his father's empire, both the legitimate businesses and the underground operations that made the Kim family name whispered with fear in certain circles. "I'm listening, Ms. Mitchell." "There are transfers here that don't align with any business operations. Millions of won moving through shell companies." She met his eyes directly, refusing to be intimidated by the way he watched her like a predator studying prey. "I can't sign off on these books until I understand what I'm looking at." A slow smile curved his lips. "You're very thorough. I'm very good at my job. I can see that." He stood, moving around the desk with the grace of a panther. "Most auditors see what they want to see, what they're paid to see, but not you." Zara's pulse quickened as he approached, but she held her ground. "I don't take bribes, Mr. Kim. I wasn't going to offer you one." He stopped just close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and masculine that made her thoughts scatter. "I was going to offer you the truth. And a choice." That conversation had led to another and another. He'd been honest with her in a way that both terrified and intrigued her. Yes, his family had connections to organized crime. Yes, some of that money was being laundered through legitimate businesses. But he'd also shown her the other side, the protection his family provided to Korean communities, the businesses they saved, the people they employed. "My father built this empire with blood and sacrifice," Jae-won had told her over dinner 3 nights later at a private restaurant where they were the only customers. "I'm trying to make it legitimate, but I can't erase the past overnight. I need someone I can trust. Someone who sees clearly but doesn't judge automatically." "Why me?" Zara had asked, sipping the wine that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Because you looked me in the eye and didn't flinch. Because you're brilliant and incorruptible. Because from the moment you walked into my office, I haven't been able to think about anything else." The honesty in his voice had stolen her breath. She'd dated before, had her heart broken before, but nothing had prepared her for the magnetic pull she felt toward this dangerous, complicated man. "I have to tell you something," she'd admitted. "I'm not just here as an auditor. The firm I work for, they have connections to international law enforcement. They wanted someone on the inside of Kim Enterprises." She'd expected anger, maybe violence. Instead, Jaewon had laughed, a real, genuine sound that transformed his severe features into something devastatingly handsome. I know. I've known since the day you arrived. What? But you let me. I let you see everything because I wanted you to make your own choice. Not based on rumors or assumptions, but on the truth. He'd reached across the table, taking her hand. So what's your choice, Zara? That had been the beginning of everything. Now, in his office with the taste of him still on her lips, Zara knew she'd made her choice weeks ago. But the consequences were starting to pile up like storm clouds on the horizon. Jaewon pulled back slightly, his forehead resting against hers as they both caught their breath. Stay with me tonight. You know I can't keep doing this. Your father already suspects something. And Minesio. His jaw tightened at the mention of his father's protege. Minesio doesn't matter. She thinks she's going to marry you. Your father promised her. My father doesn't control me. Jaewon's hand cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. I don't want Minesio. I've never wanted her. I want you. The door to the office burst open, and they sprang apart. Jaewon's father, Kim Tae-young, stood in the doorway, his weathered face carved from stone. Behind him, Minesio's perfectly made-up features twisted into an expression of triumph and fury. So it's true, Tae-young said in Korean, his voice like gravel. My son, throwing away everything for a foreign woman who came here to spy on us. Jaewon moved in front of Zara instinctively. Father, this isn't what you think. Isn't it? Minesio stepped forward, her designer heels clicking on the marble floor. She switched to English, her words dripping with venom. We've been watching you, both of you. Did you really think you could betray this family without consequences? Zara's mind raced. I haven't betrayed anyone. I've kept everything I learned confidential. For now, Tae-young said, also switching to English. But what happens when your employers demand results? When they pressure you to turn over evidence? Will your feelings for my son be enough then? The question hung in the air like a blade. Jaewon's hand found Zara's, gripping it tightly. She's not going to betray us. I trust her. Your trust is misplaced, Minesio hissed. She's using you, can't you see that? These women, they come to Korea thinking they can trap wealthy men. Careful, Jaewon's voice dropped to a dangerous level. Very careful, Minesio. Or what? You'll choose her over your family? Over everything your father built? Minesio's laugh was cold. She's a distraction, Jaewon. A phase. Eventually, you'll remember who you really are. Zara pulled her hand from Jaewon's grip. Maybe she's right. Maybe this was a mistake. Zara. No. She couldn't look at him, couldn't bear to see the hurt in his eyes. I came here to do a job, and I've compromised everything. Your father is right. I should leave. She pushed past them, ignoring Jaewon calling her name, ignoring the satisfied smile on Minesio's face. She had to get out, had to think, had to figure out how everything had gotten so complicated so fast. The Seoul streets were wet and cold as Zara walked without direction, her mind a chaos of emotion. Her phone buzzed, Jaewon calling again. She ignored it. Then a text from her supervisor at the firm. Need to meet. Tomorrow. 9 a.m. Have questions about your progress. She'd run out of time. If you're loving this drama so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because this story is about to get even more intense. Drop a comment and let me know, are you team Jaewon or do you think Zara should run while she still can? And don't forget to like this video. Back at his penthouse, Jaewon poured himself a whiskey, his knuckles white around the glass. His father stood by the window, silent and imposing. You're going to lose everything if you continue this, Tae-young finally said. I'm going to lose everything if I don't. Jaewon downed the drink. I love her, father. Love. Tae-young said the word like it was a disease. Love doesn't keep empires standing. Love doesn't protect families. Loyalty does. Power does. Fear does. And loneliness? What does that do? Jaewon turned to face his father. You've been alone since mother died. You've built an empire, yes, but for what? To die surrounded by people who fear you but don't love you. Tae-young's expression flickered. Your mother understood duty. She married me knowing what I was, what our family required. That woman. Her name is Zara. She will never understand. She comes from a different world. She has different values. And eventually, those differences will destroy you both. Or make us stronger. Jaewon moved toward the door. I'm going after her. If you leave now, if you choose her over this family, there will be consequences. Jaewon paused. What kind of consequences? The kind that your woman won't survive. Taeyong's words were soft, but deadly serious. There are people in our organization who already see her as a threat. If you continue to defy me, if you make it clear you value her over the family business, they will act. And I won't stop them. The threat landed like a physical blow. You would kill an innocent woman to control me? I would do whatever necessary to protect this family. As you should. Taeyong's eyes were hard. Marry Minesio. Secure the alliance with her family. Continue building our empire. Let the American girl go home and forget about us. And if I refuse? Then you'll watch her die, and it will be your fault for being selfish enough to drag her into our world. After his father left, Jaewon stood in the darkness of his apartment, rage and helplessness warring inside him. He'd faced down rival gangs, corrupt politicians, and corporate sharks, but he never felt as powerless as he did now. Because his father was right about one thing. By loving Zara, he'd painted a target on her back. His phone rang. Not Zara, but his younger sister Jiwoo, calling from New York where she was studying. Appa, she said, using the Korean term of respect. I heard about your American auditor. News travels fast. Father's upset. Minesio is furious. Which means you must really care about this woman. There was a smile in Jiwoo's voice. Tell me about her. And he did. He told his sister about Zara's brilliance, her courage, the way she challenged him, the way she looked at him like he was a man rather than a monster. He told her about the way she laughed, the way she'd taught him to see possibilities beyond the path his father had laid out. Then fight for her, Jiwoo said simply. Appa, you've spent your whole life doing what father wanted, becoming who he needed you to be. When do you get to choose? It's not that simple. If I choose her, he'll threaten and manipulate, yes. But father loves you, even if he shows it badly. He won't actually hurt someone you love. He's bluffing. And if he's not, then you find a way to protect her. You're Kim Jaewon. You control half of Seoul's underground. You're telling me you can't outsmart one old man and his grudges. After he hung up, Jaewon made a series of calls. If his father wanted to play dangerous games, then they would play. But Jaewon had been learning from the master his entire life, and he knew moves his father had forgotten he'd taught him. Zara barely slept that night. Her small apartment in Gangnam felt suffocating, every shadow seeming to hide threats. She'd gotten into something way over her head. The smart thing would be to take the first flight back to New York and forget she'd ever met Kim Jaewon. But when had her heart ever done the smart thing? The meeting with her supervisor the next morning confirmed her worst fears. David Chin sat across from her in the coffee shop, his expression grave. Zara, we need the evidence. The firm has been patient, but our clients are demanding results. They believe Kim Enterprises is a major player in international money laundering, and they want proof. I told you, the irregularities I found could have legitimate explanations. Could have. But do they? David leaned forward. Look, I know you've gotten close to Jaewon Kim. That's actually good. Use that connection. Get access to the real books, the ones I know they're not showing you. You want me to betray his trust. I want you to do your job. Or have you forgotten why you're really here? His expression softened. Zara, these people are dangerous. They're criminals. Whatever you think you feel for Jaewon Kim, it's not real. It's Stockholm Syndrome or manipulation or... it's love. The words came out stronger than she'd intended. I love him, David. His face fell. Oh, Zara. No, you can't. You can't love someone like him. Why? Because he's Korean? Because his family has a complicated past? Because he's not what you expected? Because he's a criminal? David's voice rose, causing nearby patrons to glance over. He lowered it again. Because he's part of an organization that has hurt people, killed people. Because no matter how much he smiles at you or makes you feel special at his core, he's his father's son. You don't know him. And you do? After a few weeks. David shook his head. You have until the end of the week. Get us something concrete, or we're pulling you out and reporting what we have to the authorities. Your call. After he left, Zara sat staring at her untouched coffee, feeling the walls closing in. Every choice led to betrayal. If she helped David, she'd betray Jaewon and destroy whatever chance they had. If she refused, she'd lose her job, her reputation, possibly face legal consequences for withholding evidence. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, Blue Tiger Club. Midnight. Come alone if you want answers about Jaewon's past. A friend. It was obviously a trap. Obviously dangerous. Obviously something she should ignore. She texted back, I'll be there. The Blue Tiger Club was in Itaewon, the international district of Seoul. Neon lights flickered over rain-slicked streets as Zara stepped out of the taxi, her heart hammering. The club entrance was guarded by men who looked like they could bench press trucks, but when she gave her name, they stepped aside. Inside, the music was deafening, bodies packed together on the dance floor. A woman in a red dress appeared at her elbow. Minasio. You came. I wasn't sure you would. Minasio had to shout over the music. You sent the text? Come. We need privacy. Minasio led her through the crowd to a VIP room on the second floor. The door closed behind them, muffling the noise. They were alone. Why did you bring me here? Zara demanded. Minasio poured herself a drink from the bar, her movements graceful and controlled. Because I want you to understand what you're dealing with. You think you know Jaewon, but you've only seen what he wants you to see. And you're going to tell me the truth out of the goodness of your heart? No. I'm going to tell you the truth because I want you gone, and I think once you know, you'll leave on your own. Minasio pulled out her phone, scrolling through photos. Do you know how Jaewon's mother died? Zara had wondered, but Jaewon had never discussed it. No. She was killed. Shot by a rival gang when Jaewon was 15. They were targeting his father, but she got in the way. Minasio showed her a photo, a crime scene, blood on marble floors. Do you know what Jaewon did? Zara's stomach turned. Stop. He tracked down every single person involved. It took him 2 years. And he killed them. All 7 of them. With his own hands. Minasio's eyes glittered. He was 17 years old when he killed the last one. His father was so proud. You're lying. Am I? Minasio showed her another photo, young Jaewon, barely recognizable, his face harder and colder than Zara had ever seen it, standing over a body. This is who you think you love. A killer. A monster who is molded by violence and blood. Zara's hands shook. People can change. He's trying to go legitimate. Is he? Or is that just what he tells you? Minasio moved closer. Last week, a man who tried to cheat the Kim family disappeared. They found pieces of him in the Han River. Jaewon ordered it. I don't believe you. Then ask him. Ask your precious Jaewon about Park Minho. Ask him what happens to people who betray the Kim family. Minasio's smile was razor sharp. And then think about what will happen to you when he finds out you were sent here to spy on him. Because he will find out, Zara. And when he does, all the feelings he claims to have won't matter. Family is everything to men like him. And you're not family. The door opened and several men entered, not Kim family, judging by the way Minasio's face paled. Well, the leader said in accented English. Minasio and Jaewon's little American pet. How convenient. What are you doing here? Minasio demanded. This is Kim territory. Not anymore. The Kims are getting weak, distracted. Time for new management. He nodded to his men. Take them both. Zara fought as hands grabbed her, but it was useless. A cloth pressed over her face, chemical sweet, and darkness swallowed her whole. She woke with a splitting headache in a warehouse that smelled of rust and salt water. Minasio was tied to a chair across from her, blood trickling from her temple unconscious. Zara's hands were bound behind her back, zip ties cutting into her wrists. Good, you're awake. The leader from the club appeared, flanked by armed men. I'm going to record a little message for Kim Jaewon. You're going to be my special guest star. He held up a phone, starting a video recording. Then he grabbed Zara's hair, yanking her head back as she gasped in pain. Hello, Jaewon. I have something that belongs to you. 2 things, actually, but I think we both know which one you really care about. You have 12 hours to transfer control of the shipping operations to me, or I start sending her back to you in pieces. Starting with these pretty fingers. He ended the recording and sent it. Zara's heart raced as he pulled out a knife, the blade catching the dim light. Please, she said, hating the tremor in her voice. Please, you don't have to do this. Actually, I do. Jaewon needs to learn that caring about people is a weakness. And weaknesses get exploited. He traced the blade down her cheek, not quite cutting. though I might have some fun with you first. I've always been curious about. The warehouse door exploded inward. J1 strode through the smoke and debris like an avenging angel, gun in hand, his men pouring in behind him. The fight was brutal and brief. Gunshots echoed in the confined space, men screamed and fell. Zara squeezed her eyes shut, unable to watch the violence even as relief flooded through her. When she opened them, J1 was there, cutting through her zip ties with swift, efficient movements. His hands were gentle despite the blood on them, though whether it was his blood or someone else's, she couldn't tell. Are you hurt? His voice was rough with fear and rage. I'm okay, Minesio. My men have her. Can you walk? When she nodded, he pulled her to her feet, keeping her close. Don't look. Just keep your eyes on me. But she did look, just for a moment, and saw bodies on the floor, saw the leader who'd threatened her crumpled against a wall, saw the reality of J1's world painted in blood and gunpowder. In the car speeding away from the warehouse, Zara couldn't stop shaking. J1 held her, murmuring in Korean, his hands stroking her hair. She should pull away, should be terrified of him after what she'd just witnessed. But all she felt was safe. How did you find me so fast? She finally asked. I've had people watching you since our first meeting. When you went to the Blue Tiger Club, they alerted me. When you were taken, his voice broke slightly. I thought I'd lost you. Minesio told me things. About your past. About what you've done. His body tensed. What did she tell you? About your mother. About the men you killed. About Park Minho. She pulled back to look at his face. Is it true? For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then yes, all of it. I've done terrible things, Zara. I've hurt people, killed people. I've been the monster in other people's nightmares. If you want to leave, if you can't be with someone like me, I'll understand. I'll have my men take you to the airport right now, and I'll never contact you again. Is that what you want? What I want. He laughed bitterly. I want to be someone different. Someone worthy of you. Someone who didn't have blood on his hands and darkness in his soul. But I am who I am, and my past is what it is. I can't change that. Zara thought about everything she'd learned, everything she'd seen. The violence, the danger, the moral complexity of loving someone who lived in shades of gray rather than black and white. The smart thing would be to walk away. Tell me about Park Minho, she said instead. J1's joy tightened. He was stealing from us, from the legitimate businesses. Money meant for employee pensions, for workers' families. When my father found out, he ordered him killed. I carried out that order because that's what I do. That's who I am. And the men who killed your mother? I hunted them because they took the only person who ever loved me unconditionally. Because I was 15 and broken and angry, and my father pointed me at targets and I became a weapon. His eyes met hers, dark and haunted. I'm not asking you to forgive me for what I've done. I'm just asking you to see all of me before you make your choice. I already made my choice, Zara said softly. In your office, when I kissed you back. When I stayed instead of running. I saw who you are, J1. Not just the violence, but the man who's trying to build something better. The man who protected me even when it put him at odds with his father. The man who... He kissed her, desperate and deep, and she tasted fear and hope and love all mixed together. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. I love you, he said in Korean, then English. I love you, and it terrifies me because everyone I love gets hurt. Then we'll just have to be strong enough to survive it, she whispered back. The penthouse was quiet when they arrived, but Taeyong was waiting in the living room. His eyes took in their disheveled appearance, the blood on J1's clothes, the way his son held Zara close. I heard about the warehouse, Taeyong said. The Choi faction made a bold move. And paid for it. J1 didn't release Zara. They came after what's mine. I responded appropriately. What's yours? Taeyong looked at Zara. You're claiming her, then. Publicly. Yes. You understand what that means. The danger it puts her in. The target you've painted on her back. I'll protect her. Like you protected your mother? The words were cruel, calculated to wound, and they hit their mark. Zara felt J1 flinch. But before he could respond, she stepped forward. Mr. Kim, I respect your concerns, but I'm not some helpless victim who needs saving. I chose to be here. I chose your son, knowing exactly who he is and what his world involves. And I'm choosing to stay. Taejong studied her with new interest. You're brave. Foolish, but brave. The women in my family have never been accused of being overly cautious, Zara replied. We tend to love hard and fight harder. For the first time, something like respect flickered in Taejong's eyes. I can see why my son is drawn to you. But bravery won't stop bullets. Love won't protect you from our enemies. No, but I will. Jaewon's voice was steel. Father, I've followed your rules my entire life. I've done what you asked, become what you needed. But in this, I won't bend. Zara stays. She's under my protection, which means she's under the family's protection. Anyone who touches her answers to me. The tension in the room could have been cut with a knife. Finally, Taeyong nodded slowly. Very well. But there are conditions. She cannot work for that American firm anymore. The conflict of interest is too great. If she stays, she's one of us completely, or she's a liability. Zara's heart sank. Her career, everything she'd worked for, but then she looked at Jaewon, at the man she'd fallen for despite every logical reason not to, and the choice became clear. I'll resign in the morning, she said. After Taeyong left, Jaewon led her to his bedroom. The city lights sparkled beyond the windows as he carefully cleaned the small cuts and bruises she'd sustained, his touch unbearably gentle. You don't have to give up your career for me, he said quietly. I can find another way. I'm not giving it up for you. I'm choosing a different path when I want to walk. She caught his hand. Besides, I have some ideas about how I could help your legitimate businesses. Real restructuring, actual clean accounting. If you're serious about going straight, you'll need someone who knows how to navigate both worlds. You do that? Work for me. With you. As your partner. She pulled him closer. In business and everything else. The kiss started tender, but quickly ignited into something more urgent. Jaewon lifted her, carrying her to the bed, and this time when he laid her down, there were no interruptions, no barriers between them. He made good on his promise from the office, making her forget everything except the feeling of his hands on her skin, his name on her lips, the way he whispered Korean endearments that sounded like prayers. By morning, curled in his arms with the Seoul sunrise painting the sky pink and gold, Zara understood what Min Seo had been trying to warn her about. Loving Jaewon was dangerous, complicated, sometimes terrifying. But it was also real and passionate and worth fighting for. Tell me I'm not crazy, she murmured against his chest. You're completely crazy, he replied, pressing a kiss to her hair. But so am I. The next weeks were a whirlwind. Zara submitted her resignation to the firm, endured David's disappointed lectures, and started to untangle herself from her old life. Jaewon was true to his word, keeping her protected but not caged, letting her help restructure the legitimate parts of his empire while keeping her away from the darker elements. But Min Seo wasn't finished. The evidence arrived at Taejong's office by a courier, copies of emails between Zara and David, discussion of gathering evidence against Kim Enterprises, proof that she'd been sent as a corporate spy. Min Seo had somehow gotten access to Zara's communications and compiled a damning dossier. Taeyong summoned them both to his office, the folder open on his desk. Explain this, he demanded, looking at Zara. She didn't flinch. I was sent here to gather evidence, yes. That was my initial assignment. But I never passed along anything substantial, and I resigned before completing that mission. My employers don't have anything they can use. But you were a spy. You lied to my son, to all of us. I did. And I'm sorry for that. But I'm not sorry for falling in love with Jaewon, and I'm not sorry for choosing him over my assignment. She met Taeyong's hard gaze. You want to know if you can trust me? You can't, not completely. Not yet. I have to earn that. But I'm willing to try if you're willing to let me. Father, I knew, Jaewon interjected. I told Zara I knew from the beginning. That's why I showed her everything. I wanted her to make an informed choice. Taeyong's eyebrows rose. You knew she was a spy, and you still. I fell in love with her anyway. Or maybe because of it. Because she was honest about her dishonesty. Because when she chose me, I knew it was real. Jaewon took Zara's hand. If you can't accept that, then I'll leave. I'll walk away from the family, from the business, from everything. But I won't walk away from her. The office fell silent. Taeyong stared at his son for a long moment, seeing perhaps for the first time that the boy he'd molded into a weapon had somehow become his own man. Your mother said something to me once, Taeyong finally said, his voice rougher than usual. She said that love makes you weak in some ways, but strong in others. That a man who has something to protect fights harder than a man who has nothing to lose. He looked at Zara. I didn't understand then. I thought love had made her weak, and it got her killed. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe it made her brave enough to stand between me and that bullet. He closed the folder. Prove me wrong about you, Miss Mitchell. Prove that my son's faith isn't misplaced. Prove that love can exist in our world without destroying everything it touches. I will, Zara promised. But Minacio had one more card to play. The gala was meant to be a celebration, Kim Enterprises announcing a major legitimate business deal that would further distance the company from its criminal origins. Zara wore a custom gown, deep emerald that complemented her dark skin, Jae-won devastating in a tailored tuxedo beside her. They moved through the crowd of business elite and political figures like they belonged, and maybe they did now. But halfway through the evening, the lights cut out. When they came back on, the large screens meant for the presentation were showing something else, surveillance footage of Jae-won's men at the warehouse, the violence explicit and brutal. Then more footage, older, showing executions and criminal activities spanning years. Chaos erupted. Guests screamed, fled, pulled out phones to record everything. The business deal crumbled in real time as partners scrambled to distance themselves from the scandal. And in the center of it all, Minacio stood smiling, a remote in her hand. You wanted to go legitimate, she called out over the noise. Let's see how that works out when everyone knows exactly what you are. Jae-won moved toward her, but Zara caught his arm. Don't. That's what she wants, you losing control, confirming everything she just showed them. She's destroying everything I've built. So we'll build it again. Better. Stronger. Zara stepped forward, toward the microphone. May I? She didn't wait for an answer, taking the mic from the frozen MC. Ladies and gentlemen, I know what you just saw is shocking. And I'm not going to stand here and tell you it's all lies, because it isn't. The Kim family has a complicated history, one they've never tried to hide from those who actually bothered to look. But what I will tell you is that for the past 2 years, Jae-won Kim has been working tirelessly to transform this company into something clean, something legitimate. He could have kept running things the old way, it would have been easier, more profitable. But he chose the harder path because he believes in building something better. She found Jae-won in the crowd, his eyes locked on hers. I was sent here to expose his crimes. Instead, I found a man trying to atone for his past while building toward a better future. And yes, I fell in love with him, which makes me biased. But it also means I've seen him at his worst and his best, and I can tell you that Jae-won Kim is more than his father's legacy. He's more than the violence he's committed or the blood on his family's hands. He's a man who deserves a chance to prove he can change. The room was silent. Then, from the back, a voice Taeyong's. My son is twice the man I ever was. And if you're too short-sighted to see that, then we don't need your money or your partnership. The Kim family has survived worse than public scandal. We'll survive this too. Slowly, grudgingly, some of the guests began to settle. Not all, many still fled, and the business deal was certainly dead. But enough stayed to hear Jae-won speak, to listen to his plans, to consider that maybe redemption was possible. Later, in the car heading home, Jae-won was quiet. Say something, Zara finally prompted. You keep saving me, he said softly. I'm supposed to be the one protecting you, but you keep saving me. Maybe that's what love is. Taking turns being strong for each other. He pulled her close, kissing her with a tenderness that made her heart ache. Marry me. She pulled back, startled. What? Marry me. I don't have a ring yet, and this isn't romantic, and we're probably both crazy, but marry me anyway. Be my wife, my partner, my everything. His hand cupped her face. I know I'm asking you to tie yourself to someone complicated and dangerous. I know I come with more baggage than any rational person would accept. But I love you, Zara, and I want everyone to know you're mine as much as I'm yours. She should say no. Should want a proper proposal, a romantic setting, more time to think. But when had her heart ever done the smart thing? Yes, she breathed. Yes, I'll marry you. Before we get to the ending, I need to know, are you still with us? Because this story proves that love can survive anything, even corporate espionage and warehouse shootouts. If you're loving Zara and Jaewon's journey, smash that like button, drop a comment telling me your favorite moment so far, and make sure you're subscribed because we have so many more incredible stories coming your way. Now, let's see how our couple story concludes. The wedding was small, intimate, just close family and friends. Jiwoo flew in from New York to be Zara's maid of honor, delighted that her brother had found happiness. Taeyong walked Zara down the aisle, a gesture that shocked everyone but somehow felt right. They were family now, for better or worse. Minesio didn't attend. She'd been cut off from the Kim family business after her stunt at the gala, her own family distancing themselves from the scandal she'd caused. Part of Zara felt sorry for her, a woman so consumed by what she thought she deserved that she destroyed herself trying to claim it. But mostly, Zara just felt grateful. Grateful for the man waiting at the altar, for the complicated family she was marrying into, for the unexpected life she'd found in Seoul. By morning she was asking for more. Jaewon whispered against her ear as they danced at the reception, referencing the title's promise with a wicked smile. Is that right? Zara laughed. Pretty confident, Mr. Kim. Just making promises I intend to keep, Mrs. Kim. And he did. That night, and every night after, he made good on every promise, every whispered declaration. Their life together wasn't perfect. There were still threats, still complications from his past, still moments when the danger of his world touched their happiness. But they faced it together, two people who'd chosen each other despite every logical reason not to. 6 months later, Zara stood in the office that had once been Taeyong's, looking over reports from the newly restructured Kim Enterprises. The criminal elements had been cleanly separated and phased out, replaced with legitimate investments and businesses. It had cost them money and relationships, but they were building something sustainable, something legal, something they could be proud of. Jaewon came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. Tired. Exhausted, but happy, she leaned back into him. Your father stopped by earlier. He actually smiled at me. An actual smile? Are you sure it wasn't indigestion? She laughed, turning in his arms. He said I was good for you. Good for the family. He's right. Jaewon kissed her softly. You saved me, you know. I was so lost before you, so convinced I was nothing but my past. You made me believe I could be more. You were always more. I just reminded you. She touched his face, this dangerous, complicated, beautiful man she'd fallen for. I love you, Jaewon. I love you, Zara. My wife. My partner. My everything. Outside, Seoul glittered in the darkness, a city of infinite possibilities. And in that office, wrapped in each other's arms, two people who'd found love in the most unlikely of places held onto each other and the future they were building together. Because sometimes the best love stories are the complicated ones, the forbidden ones, the ones that make you risk everything for a chance at something real. Zara